Friends, I'd like to do a song for you. It's not necessarily a gospel song, but it's very inspirational to most of us. It was written by a famous duo, Simon and Garfunkel. Now, I'm really nervous about this one, so I hope I do it okay. This one's called Bridge Over Troubled Water.
When you're weary, feeling small, when tears are in your eyes, I will dry them all. I am on your side. And friends just can't be found, yeah, like a bridge over troubled water. I will lay me down, oh, like a bridge over troubled water. I will lay me when you're down and out, when you're on the street, when evening falls so high, I will comfort you. I'll take your part. Oh, when darkness falls and pain is all around, yeah, like a bridge over troubled water, I will lay me down, oh, like a bridge over troubled water. I will lay me sail on, silver girl, sail on by. Your time has come to shine. All your dreams are on their way. See how they shine. Oh, if you need a friend, I'm sailing right behind, yeah, like a bridge over troubled water. I will lead your mind like a bridge over troubled water. I will lead your
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. May God bless you.
Okay, let's try that sound check again. And the kiss. Good.
I'm Ben Klein from Spokane, Washington.
Vanessa Klein from White Rock, British Columbia.
Can you tell me about the moments where you felt his presence? Can you tell me anything more about that time?
I guess we were doing a prayer group near the end of the weekend and just kind of praying about all the stuff, and it was just this overwhelming feeling that everything was gonna be okay, like just that really emotional, like I started crying, and I don't know, it was just really very, like just a very, very happy, wonderful feeling. So at that prayer group, it was wonderful.
1 second.
And the hammering.
The gardener coming.
Yes.
What about for you, Ben? What's your earliest memory of faith?
I think that the hardest time in my life was probably, because my family and I have a very close-knit relationship, as you've seen. You know, sometimes I think with every family there's hardships, there's bickering, there's fighting, and I think that's pretty normal. I mean, in a sense that every family I've ever been in, sometimes the saying is you hurt the ones you love the most, and you don't mean to, but it's just such a sinful, natural way to do things, and then you say something you wish you hadn't, and then you go back and apologize and try to fix it. But I think the earliest time I've had, the hardest time, was my mom was going through thyroid cancer, and it was probably the darkest time in my life. I was very, very depressed, very dark, very gothic almost. I went into this whole other persona almost, and then it wasn't me. I'm a pretty happy person. Sometimes I'm a bit pessimistic, and it's good that she's the optimistic one, because she's very optimistic all the time. She's always the glass, half full, and I'm always the glass half empty. I'm more of a realist, and it's good that we kind of balance each other out. But Mom was going through thyroid cancer, and it was just terrible for me, because I really felt maybe she wouldn't make it through, and we all prayed about it and stuff, and I'd say in a way I almost lost some faith through that. But afterwards, when I saw God's worked in my life so many different instances. It would take like 2 or 3 days to actually go through every specific thing, but you always see God like working in your life. And I think sometimes the biggest problem is we always look for the big things instead of seeing the small things along the way, because it's like God wants to slowly show us Him. He doesn't sometimes just pop out to us and say, hey, here I am, He kind of shows us one little thing, bring this person into our life that'll bring us, out of the depths a little bit, kind of pull us out of the hole we're in. And so all these little things, we might miss something here, we might not get a job or something here, but down the line, it's much better for us. It challenges us to be stronger. So I think when my mother was going through that time, I would say it's the time where I had the least faith, but at the same time, the most faith. Because God was really the only one I was able to rely on through all that, so I had to really trust in Him. And when it all came down, she got completely cured of it, and He really worked in our life, in our family and stuff, so that's...
What was the first time in your life where you feel like you had to rely upon God, or that you chose to rely upon God?
I think probably, the past experience that I talked, just because it was like it was really hard, and that's probably the hardest I've ever, the hardest part of my life so far, I guess. I mean, I didn't really grow up having hardships, and if there was, I was probably too young for it to even sink in or anything.
Are you comfortable explaining what was going on for you?
Yes. Well, when we broke up, that was really hard for me. Because, I mean, you think that, that you're with your soulmate, and then you're not together anymore. And it was really hard. And I just felt like, I had 2 of my really close friends had died kind of out of nowhere. And that was really, it was a shock to everyone. And the one man, Scott Wheeler, he was basically like my acting mentor, and I had known him since I was probably 12 or 13, basically when we first moved to White Rock, and I was taking classes from him, and he just became such a friend, and I wouldn't even be in acting if it wasn't for him. So just kind of growing up with him, and then all of a sudden he just like died out of nowhere, and it was just so hard on everyone. And my parents were on a trip, and it was just like, it was a combination of so many things that just really hit me really hard. And then you know, when you're like young teenager, you start to get into the party mode, and I was partying a lot, which wasn't really something I really cared to do, but it kind of felt like that's kind of just to numb things, I guess. And I pretty much was at my low, like a pretty low point in my life, and I guess I just was really praying that I would get over it and everything would be okay, and that he would be with me and just really help me to get over what I was feeling, and just to basically to help everything to be okay. And that's all I wanted more than everything, was just to, like, please let this be okay, please let this be okay, and just I don't want to do this anymore, I don't want to feel like this anymore. And I was a zombie for a couple months. I mean, I didn't laugh, I didn't like smile, it was really, really awful. And I don't know, I just started feeling that he was really like with me, and he was really helping me. And then when I went to this Christian camp, I guess I didn't so much, some of the things that they would talk about, I didn't so much agree with, but I really felt him there, I guess. Like like I said, in that prayer group with all those people, and, you know, there were people just having their hands on you and just praying for you, and like, just, you know, I want, you know, just everything's gonna be okay, and whatever you are praying for, you know, we're praying for you. And that just really, it was that overwhelming feeling that everything was gonna be okay. And then from then on, you know, everything was okay. I guess it was just, I was more level-headed, and I was more, you know, myself again, and the hurts healed. So that is probably the most amazing part of my life with God, and my walk with God. That was really, really quite wonderful, I guess.
Do you remember those moments in prayer and what happened for you?
I guess just that overwhelming, I don't know, just like when it all went okay, or when it wasn't okay. It was really powerful, I guess. It was just really powerful with, you know, all those people there just praying for you, and then praying for yourself, obviously, and then everything just all of a sudden, it was like after the prayer, it was like a weight had been lifted off kind of thing, and I just literally instantly felt so much better, and it was just this overwhelming emotional just happiness, I guess, that just, it was, yeah, it's pretty powerful.
It's neat.
Mm-hmm. And what was the first time in your life you felt like you had to or chose to rely upon God?
Well, you know, like I spoke about before with my mom, the thyroid cancer thing, but there's even been something more recent. I usually do these big tours up here in Canada, and last year they didn't use me for any of them except for at the very end. There was 2 tours I was not included in, and then there was the one I was included in was actually, and it's really funny because the guy who books me on these tours has always told me to stay away from gospel music. And then he asked me to do a small gospel set in these Christmas tours that they did. Now, let me go back a little bit farther. I was financially struggling, spiritually struggling, physically struggling. I lost about 30 pounds in about, 3-4 months. And I needed it. It's really funny because during the time when you go through these struggles, these down times, you don't see God through it. Most people don't, and I didn't. I got to be honest, I didn't. But through it all, it took God like taking me down to the depths. Because one of my favorite verses is, "In my weakness, His strength is made perfect." It's one of my favorite verses. And because it exemplifies God's work in our life. Because usually humans, spiritually, emotionally, we think we're strong enough. We think we're good enough to do it on our own. Most people do. And sometimes the only way for God to finally work through you completely is to get you down on your knees, hands and knees, and you can't even crawl. You know, you're so upset and so depressed and so downtrodden. And I find that that's what happened to me. Like just this last year, I mean, you can ask her. Like, I cried for days, every day. I cried just consistently. I was just like, what is God doing with me? You know, where is He? What does He want to do with me? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Nobody cares if I'm here, if I'm there, if I'm gone, if I'm doing Elvis, if I'm not, if I'm even alive. You know, I told her that many days, and she's like, Ben, you need to get some help. You need to get out of this. This isn't right. And I was like, I know it's not, but I just feel this way. You know, I feel like, and so I was financially struggling. God always brought me through. I almost didn't pay my bills, but He brought me through. He brought me just enough. And, you know, and I was physically not taking care of myself, and God said to me, you know what, your body's a temple, my temple, and if you don't take care of it, no one will. So you need to get yourself, you need to start eating different, you need to start exercising, you need to start just taking care of yourself, because you're not showing me that you're not being a good steward with what I've given you. And I was like, oh boy, that's a mouthful. That's something to hear. Nobody wants to hear that, right? And so it took, you know, like I said, this guy never wanted me to do gospel music. And then it's amazing because I was praying and I was losing weight and I was changing all these things in my life. Finally got out of that deep hole, you know, God pulled me out of it, and I changed my whole life almost. I changed all kinds of things. And then he hires, you know, really didn't hire me, but more or less just asked me to do this 3 gospel song. And I remember what the songs were. They were Crying in the Chapel, Peace in the Valley, and How Great Thou Art. And I'd never sang How Great Thou Art on stage before. I'd never sang it live before people. My dad had always done the 70s thing. And I just said, God, you know, I'd love to do it. And He said, well, we'd like you to do this small gospel set in His Christmas shows, which I was really amazed about, you know, how God works through him. God worked through me to work through him. It's just like, really, I was kind of shocked almost, because I was at the shows. She was singing backup for these shows, and I was not part of the show. I just was taking her because it was sometimes an hour or 2 hour drives, and I was backstage just waiting for her to go on, you know, just kind of waiting around so I didn't have to drive all the way back and then all the way back again. And he said, you know, Ben, we'd like to use you. I'd like to do a gospel set. Like, totally dropped my jaw to the ground. But, you know, God really works. And it's funny because I actually have lately, and even in the last 3 months, said, thanks, Lord, for that time. No matter how hard it was one of the worst times in my life. No matter how hard it was necessary. Got me out of this stagnant. You know, I was stagnant. And so it's really kind of awakened me, you know, spiritually. And so it's not something you want to thank Him for in the time. But then, you know, how you probably have seen this in your own life. We all have, where there's these things we go through, you know, like footprints in the sand. Where were you, God? He's like, what do you mean? I was carrying you through that. And that always gets me kind of shook up, you know. It's just kind of like an awakening almost. It's like, wow, God really, He can carry us when we need it most, and we don't even think He's there, you know. But so that's.
Tell me about the two of you meeting.
Well, that's just craziness.
Where we met you.
Basically, it's actually, and our story, I guess, kind of really, it's kind of like, that can't just be coincidence. You know, there were so many things, like, I just all of a sudden became an Elvis fan, like 6 or 7 months before the actual festival. And my parents were like, oh, well, she's really getting this Elvis kick, you know, let's go on vacation. So let's just go to this Penticton Elvis Festival. And because my mom had heard about it from a woman, she was at a store, and she was telling her about it. So we went to this festival, and so that's my side, and I know.
Well, and the funny thing is, about, I don't know, probably, you know, a week before, she didn't even want to go to the festival. She thought, you know what, this is going to be a waste of my time. And me, on the other hand, this was my first competition, really. So I told Mom and Dad, you know, I don't want to go. I don't want to do it. I don't want to I don't want to be, you know, so stressed out and stuff. I just don't want to go. And then it all came out to where we did go, and we came to the festival, the Penticton Elvis Festival, where we met you as well in 2005. We didn't meet you in 2005. We met you in 2010, but we met each other in 2005. And it was like she came up, and she was pretty young at that point. She was only 16, and I was 24 almost. And so we kind of like. It was a really weird instance because, like, she came up and I knew there was a connection immediately, and it was the craziest thing was that. So we met the whole weekend, and our parents met the same weekend. So it was like this overwhelming, like, irony almost, you know. It's like there wasn't any like, you know, embarrassing moments or something. Oh, I got to meet your parents. You're gonna meet my parents. It was just kind of like that.
We were all like one big family.
Exactly.
Right away.
We met immediately. My parent. It's actually funny because before we even spoke, I think, didn't my dad talk to your parents?
No, it was
about the same time.
Sunday at the finals.
Oh, that's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where my stepdad and my mom went to go out and get a drink, and I'm waiting, holding the seats, and like 45 minutes later, they come back, and I'm like, what were you doing? And they're like, oh, well, you know, we were talking to Ben's parents, and I was like, oh, goodness. But I guess he was talking to them about religion and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, they were talking about God and the basis that, you know, where we all stood, you know, and really the most amazing thing was that they have a timeshare for RVs. You know, they actually.
Wait. I think I need to say my parents and I used to travel like everywhere. So.
All of North America.
All of North America, and for the summer, my parents decided that this one random place that we would go to would be Spokane, Washington. So after the Penticton Elvis Festival in August, we were going to drive to Spokane and stay at one of these RV parks in Spokane for a week.
In September,
which is the most random thing, because it's like, out of all the places, let's go to Spokane. Like, it was just so weird. Anyways, continue.
So yeah, so we I mean, you know, the irony, it's not ironic, you know. My mom has a saying, and it's kind of funny. She says it all the time, but she said it's not odd, it's God. You know, it's one of those situations where you. I know it is pretty hilarious, but
it's true.
If you could only see him laughing on the other side of the camera. But we you know, and so that we talked for about a month over the phone, and then she came, and we felt an immediate connection, and then we dated for a while, and then we actually. I got kind of scared, I got to be honest. Because I knew that this was not just a flash in the pan relationship. I knew that this was going to be a long-term relationship, and I knew that I might eventually even marry her. And I got kind of scared, so I broke it off with her for a while. About 6 months? 7 months.
I remember these things.
She knows these things, which was a very dark time for both of us, because we had some, you know, it was. For me, it was like, I don't know, you know, I should know what I want, and I did know what I wanted, but I was so scared of the whole just plunging head first into this relationship, and so it came down to the point where it was a little bit before the next Penticton Elvis Festival, wasn't it? And she said about a week before I called her, right? Because I called you right before the festival, didn't I? And we started talking again. And she said, didn't you say anything about a week before you said, I can't talk to you anymore, Ben? It's just too difficult or something?
Yeah, it was really weird. It was a couple weeks before, and I just kind of, because like, you know, the whole time you're thinking like, oh, you know, we'll get back together. And then I just came to this point where I was like, I can't do it anymore. Because I mean, I was in love with him. Like, I mean, seriously, it's usually the guy saying this in these stories, but right after that weekend, I was telling my friends, I'm going to marry that man. And my friends were like, oh, you guys, you're crazy. He's, you know, it's just so crazy, and he lives in the States, and it's never going to work. And I was like, nope, it's going to happen.
Knew it.
So it was like that whole time I was just holding on to that, and it's like, this can't be it. Like, we're going to be together and all this stuff. And yeah, just before it was just, yeah, I can't talk to you anymore because it's just too hard for me. I still love you, and I can't live like that.
And every time she talked to me, it was harder. You know, it's one of those things when you really love someone, or you have a best friend, you know, that's kind of wronged you in a way. It's like every time you talk to him, it like makes the wound deeper. It makes it hurt more. It's like pouring salt into the wound. And so, like, I mean, it was amazing because she said about a week before she said about another week she was going to tell me, like, I just can't do this anymore. And I called her out of the blue and just said, hey, I miss talking to you. We should start talking more. And then I came to the festival in 06 and realized I had all these feelings still. And then we got back together after that. You know, to make a long
Probably
story
like a couple
short,
days later.
and ever since we've been together, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's been tough because I live in Spokane and she lives up here still. We've been married for 16 months now almost. We got married on Valentine's Day, February 14th, 2009, and went to Kauai for a honeymoon. It was beautiful. It was a wonderful time, but we've had so many people come in and out of our lives that have helped us so much. I have a dear friend who blessed us financially so much, like helped us pay for the wedding and helped get us on our honeymoon. It was just such a blessing. Her name is Joyce Brodzinski, and she lives in the Tri-Cities area. But you know, it's just funny how many people can come into your life and like bless you. You know, when you least expect it, it's God's hand. You know, you see, and that's what I mean. Sometimes the big thing, yeah, she helped us financially. That's the big thing. But there's all these little things like that took me to meet her. I'm kind of digressing, but in order to meet this woman, I got a show from another friend or an acquaintance in the Elvis world who last minute canceled on her for this Miss Tri-Cities pageant. They were doing a Viva Las Vegas theme, which was really interesting because like I was on the side of the stage doing my Elvis thing, and then there was these people, then there was all the women dancing and doing all their, you know, whatever they do in the Miss Tri-Cities pageant. Because I was paying attention to what I was doing. I really wasn't watching them, but that's how I met this woman. And then she became like my second grandmother almost. It's just, God leads our steps. You know, He directs us when we allow Him to direct us. I think sometimes we're so headstrong on the big picture. Like I said, we miss the small thing along the way. So I think it's really important to see those little things, you know. Well, it's really funny because growing up, you know, I was born in '81. I did not like Elvis at all. I did not grow up. I grew up with Elvis in the family because my dad did an Elvis tribute when he was my age, like when he was like 20, 23, 24. You know, when he was younger, in his band, they did like a small Elvis set, I'd say. He was very good at it. He got out of the business 6 months before Elvis died. I really believe that if he would have been in the business when Elvis died, then he probably would have went into full-time tributing of Elvis. But that wasn't God's plan. And so he got out of the music business, went full-time ministry, and worked the restaurant business. And then him and my mom had me, of course. And I was a total miracle baby because my mom had endometriosis. She wasn't supposed to have children. And my dad's mom had a tubal ligation, and he was born after that. So there's a reason for everyone being here, right? I mean, we really see that, you know. So where was I going? So basically, like, I didn't really have I wasn't a fan of Elvis. I didn't have a fondness for Elvis all of my life growing up. And then to try to make a long story short, my mom saw a picture of Elvis in like 2001, the end of 2001, in a store, and said, you know, you kind of resemble Elvis. Well, at this point I had a shaved head and I didn't care. I really didn't care. I ultimately was like, whatever. So for my dad's birthday in October, I bought him an Elvis CD, a greatest hits CD, and I gave it to him, and he wasn't listening to it much. So I said, you know, I'm going to try this out. Why not? If I don't like it, I'll give it back to him, whatever. So I said, hey, Dad, can I borrow it and listen to it a bit? And he said, sure. So I borrowed it, and I really fell in love with the music. I really didn't realize that this man had so much charisma and talent and just such a gift from God, you know, ultimately. And so at the end of that year, I went out to a headliner show, and it was a competition, and they said to me, and it's an Elvis lookalike competition, but you don't have to sing, they said. So I didn't study, I didn't practice anything. And I get there and they're like, what are you gonna sing? I'm saying, I haven't learned anything. So I actually wrote Love Me Tender on my hand and sang it a cappella. And I lost to this guy who was a local boy. And I said, you know, and I watched this headliner do his show, and I said, you know, if he can do this, I can do this as well. You know, I can do this. And so I put myself into it for the next 6 months, and I did a little show for my parents, and they're kind of freaked out a little bit because they're like, he doesn't like Elvis at all, and now he wants to be a tribute artist. How does that happen? Like there's no progression, you know what I mean? Usually there's a small progression, like you love Elvis when you're young, and then somebody tells you you look like Elvis, and then, you know, you start singing, and then Elvis. But no, it was just like, wham, it's like that, you know, like the door opens, and there it is. And I really felt God was leading me into it, because I think Elvis he was a giving man. He was a philanthropist. He was just an amazingly talented man, but ultimately he loved to do gospel music, and that was his heart and his passion. And you can actually see that when he sings gospel music. His voice even was different. It had a different quality. He really loved it. It came from the heart. Oh, sorry about that. Probably just made a huge noise. But so that's how this whole thing happened. And it's like the faith. It's kind of interesting because I didn't know what I was going to do in life. I'd been laid off at this job I was working, and I was laid off at another job I was working. I was like, what am I supposed to do, Lord? And then he just led me into this. It was just really, it's not honest God, so that's kind of it. I mean, how does Elvis
Yeah, what was the connection
Well,
for you?
I think it's just like my parents. We had a family reunion one summer, and we were staying at this place. It was this big camping place, and so it was kind of in the back of our minds. And afterwards, that this place even existed, and probably like a month or 2 months after our family reunion, they were having this Elvis show, this Elvis dinner kind of thing. And I'd always kind of grown up with Elvis, but not that my parents were huge fans or anything like that. It was just kind of whatever. We'd go on road trips and throw in a Willie Nelson CD, and then throw in an Elvis CD, and then throw in a Billy Joel or whatever.
Willie Nelson and Elvis. Such dire opposites.
I know. So it was like Elvis was always around, but it was kind of like I enjoyed the music, but I was like, no, whatever. I don't really care. I was into Spice Girls and stuff like that back then. So we went to this dinner, and it was really weird. The tribute artist wasn't really that good, but I fell in love with the music, and it was just literally I went crazy searching for that CD that we'd always listen to on our road trips, and I just listened to it over and over and over and over and over again, and I literally.
She wore ridges in it. Became like a record.
Everything I did, brushing my teeth to I want you, I need you, I love you, and tanning out on the porch to love me tender.
Yeah, exactly.
Just it was everywhere. I wouldn't stop listening to it, and then, and which is so weird for me as a 16-year-old in high school with so many different influences, and I don't know. I just feel like.
Well, she was also in plays a lot, so
Yeah.
she was a stage actress as well. So for her to get into Elvis was kind of a, not a fluke, but it had necessity in her life.
And it was just so all of a sudden too, which was so crazy, and it was just meh, Elvis, and then Elvis. So, and then it just kind of, I don't know. I guess I just really fell in love with. The music even, not even, I know there's a lot of people who are like, oh, Elvis, I like to listen to him because he's so attractive. But I don't know, I just love the music, and it's actually kind of funny. After the Penticton Elvis Festival, the first year that we went when I met Ben, in 2005, there was the gospel show every Sunday, and he sang a couple gospel songs that I really liked. And
one of the songs I sang, Joshua Fit the Battle, that was one of them, and I don't remember the other one.
Peace
was it
in the
Peace in the
Valley?
Valley? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's another one of my favorite gospel songs. Peace in the Valley is wonderful. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No worries. But then, that weekend, after the whole weekend had kind of finished, I purchased a Novelist Gospel CD and just listened to that all the time. And it was just, I loved his gospel music. And he definitely had a different sound when he sang it. And I mean, you hear stories about from Elvis's entourage about how after the shows they just go up to, I guess, the hotel room or wherever they were, and just sit around a piano and just sing gospel music for hours.
But 1975 to 76, sometime in there, Elvis always warmed up in the studios with gospel music. That was the way he did it. And it got to the point where he was warming up for hours before. That was his best way of getting warmed up. So he'd sing gospel for 3 or 4 hours while he was wasting his studio's time. And RCA finally said, he came in one day and RCA said, "You can't do this anymore, Elvis." And he said, who said that? And he goes, well, the manager of the studio said that. And he goes, well, I'm done recording with you then. And he never recorded with them again. He recorded in the Jungle Room then for the rest of the time he recorded in Graceland. So it's really interesting because he got to the point where he's like, you know what, I want to do gospel music. And I think he would have done it full time if he could have. I really think he would have been a full-time gospel singer. I think if he would have lived longer, he would have went into full-time gospel music, you know. Because I think about all the bands. He had the Jordanaires, he had the Sweet Inspirations, he had the Stamps Quartet, he had the Imperials. All of those people are gospel. I mean, they're gospel quartets and, you know, just singers. So I think he always surrounded himself by those type of people, you know. And like she said, you know, he would do gospel till wee hours of the morning, you know. That's how much he loved it. So.
Yeah.
Just the last few questions. What are you most grateful for, Vanessa?
I have so many things that I'm thankful for.
Oh boy.
Part of the ambiance.
The beautiful trees and the car. I think, I don't know, I'm really grateful for...
Thank you, Lord.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for that car not beeping anymore.
I'm grateful for my family. I've had a really, really strong backbone from them for my whole life, and I'm really thankful that they've been there for me and just to make me who I am. I'm really thankful for Ben, very grateful for Ben. I think all in all, I think he helped me to be a better Christian. I think he brought me closer to God. And I know that he's always there for me, and we always have each other. And yeah, I'm so grateful about everything. I mean, I'm glass half full. So yeah, I just have such a strong family. And I think altogether, like with his parents and him and my parents and my family, I think that's probably what I'm most grateful for in my life.
What about you, Ben?
I mean, I think the same thing. You know, I've always had a strong godly basis. I'm especially thankful for her as well, you know. Just like how the Lord brought us together is nothing short of a miracle, you know. And I'm so thankful for the talents and abilities he's given me to use for him. You know, I sometimes wonder, like, why Elvis? Why this? I wonder it all the time. And there's been a lot of times where I've said to the Lord, I'm laying the thing down. I'm just going to stop doing it if you want me to, you know. And every time I've had a success, you know, God's always kept me humble, always kept me humble, because it's not about me, it's about him working through me, you know, giving me the talents and abilities to bless other people through it. You know, it's funny because it doesn't have to be a gospel song that can touch someone's life. You know, if you sing Love Me Tender and it reminds them of a time when their husband was alive or their wife was alive, when things were good in their life, if you can take them back for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever, so they don't have problems, you've done a good deed for someone. You know, you've used what God has given you to bless that person. You know, you don't always have to force God down someone's throat. They can see that through your life, through your being, through your, and that's the whole thing about it. I just want to be used by God, you know, that's the whole thing. So I mean, I'm thankful for her, especially. I'm thankful for my parents. I'm thankful for the gifts and talents. And God, I'm thankful for God so much. You know, he's just led me, and it's been amazing. So really has. So.
Shall we finish with you guys singing something together?
Oh, golly.
We could.
Yeah.
What song?
I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
a gospel song.
You pick. I'll just sing along.
You want to do How Great Thou Art?
Oh, I'm on the spot. I'll forget the words.
Okay, well then let's not do How Great Thou Art. Let's do, want to do In the Garden? Do you know that?
I know the chorus. 'Cause that's all I've ever had to sing.
You do know the chorus?
Yeah.
Okay. Want to do it?
Okay, sure.
Okay, we're going to do a song called In the Garden. I hope you enjoy it. I come to... No, that's too high. I come to the garden alone, while the dew is still on the roses, and the voice I hear falling on my ear, the Son of God discloses. And he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own, and the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. And the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. Thank you.